Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry
Go live to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.
Welcome to On Location here in Lethbridge. I'm Michael.
I'm Daniel, and this is...
I'm Lauren Kurmey.
Yeah, great. So thanks so much for joining us, Lauren.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, in nature. We are out here in the river bottom. It's a lovely day. I'm looking forward to learning about your artistic practice. So maybe just briefly tell me about the sort of art you do.
I focus on drawing local nature and wildlife and little familiar friends that you can just see in your backyard, out your window, or on walks in local parks. I really like highlighting the magic of the mundane that we have here. I mostly draw local nature. I love all the little critters that I see every day just out my window. I'm super obsessed with getting my binoculars out and creeping out my window on animals like every day. And there are so many little friends that I think it's really cool to slow down and appreciate. So I really like highlighting the magic in those little moments and those little critters that we can see. And so I draw them in a kind of cozy, magical, fantasy kind of way, and then hand make them, those illustrations, into different types of things like stickers and tote bags and prints and bookmarks and notepads and all sorts of different things.
When did that kind of start for you? When did you start drawing?
I've been drawing since I could hold a crayon. I would even set up my little table, my little drawing table in the living room, and then I would put out my art. And I would sell my little drawings to my parents for 25 cents. So even the little market business thing has been going on for a long time.
Were you always drawing nature?
Yeah, definitely started with nature. My mom would take me for little nature walks in my stroller around town. We were a military family, actually. So I was born in New Brunswick, and we didn't stay there very long. Went to Victoria after that in BC, and then Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and then finally here in grade 2. So I was exposed to a lot of different types of landscapes, and a lot of it early on was sea lions and whales, which is super cool. I've just always been completely enamored with all little critters we have, and it's continued every time we've moved. I've always loved seeing who's around, who's new, who's different, and even who's familiar.
I guess if you could remember what came next, maybe your artistic journey, even when you were very young.
As I started watching anime and playing more video games, I started drawing some of those types of characters and things too. So I do draw a lot of nature. I've also got anime and video game art that I do. That's a little bit of more of a side thing to my nature art, but it's definitely all really important in, I guess, the formation of my art style. Always being interested in the things around me, or interested in the characters and stories and wanting to draw those. It was always just from a point of being curious and interested, and then wanting to explore that on my page. Eventually I got a drawing tablet, so now I do all my art digitally. It's all still by hand. I draw every stroke right on the screen. I have a little pen stylus so I can draw every line, I color everything, all by hand. I always like to clarify that, because some people think that digital art is just like that. You push a button and it's there. It helps me also to be able to print it then on all these different things that I hand make. I later upgraded to one where I can draw right on the screen, so it is just like paper but on a screen.
Was there a shift when you decided to actually make this more of a business for yourself?
Yeah, so I actually went to college for something completely different. I'm self-taught in my art, but I went to college for criminal justice. I got a job at the jail here in town. I was there for a year, and I ended up getting a lot of night shifts based on what they needed at the time. And there's a lot of free time on night shifts. It's mostly just patrols every now and then, but there's a lot of sitting. You're waiting for the next patrol. I found myself drawing, and after months of just drawing and sitting and realizing that I think I like drawing what I was doing, I decided to do a thing that I think if I thought about it too much, I would have been too scared to do, but I just decided to do the thing that I found myself enjoying the most on these night shifts professionally. I just did a complete 180 to art, which had been reinforcing the whole time was what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Now, what did that feel like to take that leap?
It wasn't that scary. I was very lucky that I was still able to stay with my parents at that time, so I wasn't worried about the pressure supporting myself from a job that's very hard to do that with, especially at the beginning, and especially any job where you're starting your own business. So I was really lucky that I had the opportunity to have the support from living at home while jumping into and starting this new business. So it was definitely more of an excitement and feeling like I finally was getting to do what I think all my actions were telling me to do my whole life. I was excited to finally get to do that, be like, cool, I get to do this forever now.
Did you have any plan going into it as far as what your business might look like?
Nope. No, I didn't. I took a lot of time just drawing at first, like practicing my full time. And again, that's a very privileged position that I was in to be able to do that. But I knew that I needed to have a good foundation established before trying to just jump in and start selling stuff. So it was really important to me to practice a lot and build up my skills. And from there, I learned about different little conventions I could go to and markets. I brought my anime art to different expos and conventions, and I started getting into like craft markets with my nature art. And that was, I think, the most accessible way for me to start from there. And then that has progressed into having an online shop. I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss, especially after working at the jail. I really learned that I liked having more freedom and decision-making power. So I think being able to do like markets and conventions and having an online shop is where I really feel like I just have a lot of control in my day, in how I operate, in how I present myself, and what I choose to do regularly.
I guess, was there something that like drew you to the markets in particular?
Like I mentioned, I think it was just like the most accessible thing to try. But what keeps me in it now is that I really like being able to have that face-to-face interaction time with people, because that's so important with art, to be able to connect with the people that are viewing it, to be able to have that opportunity to talk about it, to explain, to have people see your passion about it, to relate. That's what art is. And I think that's so important in this day and age, especially with all of the AI that is around right now. The human connection, the humanity behind art is 100% what art is. Like, art is all we have as humans. And so being able to make that connection face to face with someone across from the table is like my favorite thing. I love that.
Do any like conversations come to mind that maybe you met someone at a market? And
I've met one of my good friends that I have now that I go birding with regularly. We go a few times a month. I met her at a market. She started off as a customer. She commissioned me to draw her dogs and do some pet portraits. And she followed me. I followed her back. I saw that she'd post a lot about birds. I eventually asked if she wanted to go birding. We're really good friends now. So that's like such a cool thing to be able to just easily, like, I'm at my table with my nature art. Of course, I'm going to be chatting with people that also like nature. So it's a really great way to meet like-minded people. I've also met a lot of other local business owners of shops in town that have asked me to stock my art in their stores. So it's been a really amazing opportunity for me to be able to get my art in stores, in these other really cool local businesses that we have, and back and forth support them.
I wonder, because you said you make everything yourself, and I feel like if you're mostly one person doing this, like you might be limited in how many markets you can go to or how far you can go to. And I wonder if that's actually not a bad thing, that you can just have that balance maybe between time off and time making your art.
That has been something that has been a struggle for me, is finding that balance. Being a small business owner, there's a lot of pressure too, and sometimes there's not someone to tell you, no, you need to stop today or this week or whatever. It's definitely, there's pros and cons to it. I think I'm only just figuring it out this year, finally. I've been doing this for, like, very seriously for 5 years, a little more casually 10 years. Last year, I was doing markets almost every weekend, and in between that, it was just, I was hand making everything, and I didn't have a lot of time for art. I didn't have to actually do the thing that I want to do as an artist, is make the art. I didn't really have time to sit and draw. I was just like a factory in between. And I didn't have a lot of free time for things I enjoyed. I didn't enjoy the things I enjoyed. I got real burnt out by the end of the year. And at the beginning of this year, I spent like a month and a half horizontal. I was like recovering from burnout, watched a lot of Netflix and tried to find things that sparked my joy again. And that's been what this year has been about for me, is rediscovering the things that bring me joy, rediscovering like the magic that initially made me start doing this, and reeling back on markets. I've done a few this year. It's been a lot healthier in that sense. I've had a lot more time to practice my drawing, to draw in my sketchbook. I haven't done that in years, but this year I'm sketching and practicing, and it's amazing. And I've been noticing when I do finally sit down to actually draw a full illustrated piece, finally like having a rested mind and a healthy mind is finally coming out in my art in a way that I wasn't expecting and has been really surprising to me. I've had more time to go for nature walks, and I've gotten into nature journaling, which is when I have like a little sketchbook that I bring and I just go out in nature and I find different things that interest me, and I use drawings and pictures and numbers and words just to record and write down and get on the page whatever interests me that I see when I'm out, and to ask questions and be curious. And it's been so fun just to be mindful and to go beyond just even going out and looking at a thing and being like, that's Robin, that's a magpie, but to sit and to be like, what's that magpie up to? Like, why is he doing that? You know, and to watch and to ask questions and to have the time to do that this year, to have the energy and not feel like I shouldn't be doing that or can't be doing that, but to really be like, wow, I have the time and energy to do this, and it's benefiting the whole rest of my mental health, which then benefits my art that comes out, and my business has been a really big, important journey for me. I think that I put off for far too long, but I'm really glad that I'm doing it now because it's making such a big difference to my life in general.
I'm sure it varies week to week or season to season, but kind of like what your typical day looks like as a business owner.
It definitely varies depending on what's needed. Some days I will spend entirely drawing. Those are my favorite. And some of those drawing days will be sketchbook days where I'm practicing, where I'm going through fundamentals. I'm drawing like anatomy stuff. I'm just drawing like the shapes of birds, and then slowly getting more detailed and getting into drawing over and over like bird faces and breaking all of that down, breaking down bird wings and stuff like that, and just drawing it over and over. So you have to give a lot of time to different things, and then each animal has its own weird thing, like antlers on deer. Sometimes there's like full-on illustration days where I'm at my drawing tablet working on an illustration that I'm intending to turn into a product, like a print or stickers or whatever it's going to be. Some days are make days, I call them, where I hand make whatever it is that needs to be stocked up for either a store that I need to restock at or an event that's coming up. So I'll go through and make a bunch of stickers that day, or I'll make a bunch of bookmarks or make a bunch of tote bags, be a little factory. Some days are admin days. Those are for sure the worst days as a creative, is like the emails, the spreadsheet, like tracking my income stuff, and don't like those. But then there's no one to delegate it to, so I have to do it. And I think that's definitely one of the hardest things, is not having people to delegate the tasks that you don't enjoy as much to. And then there's market days, and those are fun. Those are like a 2-hour setup. And then like early morning, we're getting up 6 a.m. and then setting up in time to have the table open and running by 8 or 9, and then it's a long day. Sometimes I get help from family. They'll bring me lunch, and that's always nice. They watch the dog, so the dog's not alone all day. That's really helpful. And then it's another like hour takedown at the end. But those are always busy days, but I really enjoy them. And yeah, I think that's probably all the different types of days.
Yeah, like if there's any sort of like non-art skill that you've had to develop in yourself in order to be successful at your business. Yeah, for sure. Definitely like the spreadsheet thing. I'm still not good at it. My fiance is much better at it. He helps me a lot. He's a number guy, so he helps. The marketing stuff, I don't want to have to do it, but I do, you know, like on social media and everything, and learning how to do that, and in whatever capacity. And definitely like my people skills. I used to be really shy and quiet. This today would have been something I would not have done probably a year ago, but it's been a really important goal of mine to practice opening up, practice being less quiet and scared to share. So I think the people skills is probably the one that I've enjoyed having to learn the most. The other ones, still don't like those, but I have really enjoyed working on being more open and sharing and getting out of my comfort zone and coming to do stuff like this. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to do it, and we didn't reach out in season 1 or 2.
Yeah.
You would have said no. Yeah. And I really like that, you know, you kind of have turned that into a positive thing. That's, it's maybe changed you as a person or how you interact with them. I'm glad to hear that. I'm an introvert myself, so I understand spending time alone but I get that. It sometimes takes a bit of work to get out there and especially to have to promote yourself. I feel like especially maybe it would be different especially for you, like being in person at markets, right? You can't just be sending emails or be behind the computer. You have to be out there, right? Yeah.
But I've learned to come to enjoy that a lot more than because I spend the rest of my working time alone. You know, I have my little studio in the basement, and I mean, I got my dog, so thank goodness for him. If it wasn't for him, I don't know what I'd do. But aside from that, I'm just down in my little basement drawing away. So it's nice. I've reframed it so that it's nice to have these opportunities to come out and do markets and stuff like today. Yeah.
No, it's lovely. Yeah. And I seem to remember, like when we were talking initially, that you like even made your own website too, right? Yeah. How was that experience?
Yeah. Same as everything else I make. I got to do it myself. I don't have anyone else.
Yeah.
I like having the control. I like saving the money of being able to do things myself. And yeah, being able to design my own website meant that I had all the control and how it looked. It's cool because I get to represent myself the way that I want to everywhere that I go, whether someone finds me online on my website or they find me in person at a market. What they're getting is exactly what I have put into it. So the words on my website, the way that it's laid out, that's me. Anywhere that you find me, in person, online, whatever, is me. It's come from me. I think that's so special and genuine. I love being able to just present myself that way everywhere.
Yeah, a little more control, again, back to that autonomy thing in a good way. I think.
Yeah,
as far as your branding. And even like, you know, when I think of your website, like I immediately think of like the colors, right? They're very like alluring colors, right? Greens and browns and nature.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like it was a very intentional time you spent.
I spent a long time working on that color palette. Yeah, that's like another one of my work type of days is planning things. If we're planning color palettes or planning table layouts and things like that, those would be days where I was like, oh, I'm doing a color palette today.
And I guess like, you know, we've talked a lot about like your journey and where you've been, but do you have any kind of like dream projects or aspirations for the future of your business or your art?
That's a really good question. And again, always coming back to being my own boss is I get to choose what I'm doing. And like, I'd love to one day maybe like illustrate a book cover or something, or do a coloring book. But the more like I think about that question, the more I realize that it's in my power to do my dream project whenever I want, every time. So like really my dream project is the next thing I draw, because I can do whatever I want with it and I can make that be what I have always dreamed of making, and I just do it. I have that choice. And so yeah, it's the next thing I draw is the best thing that I want to make.
And one question we always try to ask people at the end, I guess, how is your artistic practice or your business? Like, how has that influenced your everyday life?
Yeah, I think that also comes back to the balance question. So it's because art is so tied in with what is in your heart, right? Because it's nature. I draw nature. I love nature. And being able to find the balance this year to be able to go back out in nature more, it all is linked and cycles around. And so being a nature artist and reminding myself this year why I started doing that has also reminded me and encouraged me to get back out in nature more. The fact that my life has become more about the things that I love, like nature, and being able to get back out into it because I know that will also still benefit my art. It's all encouraged me back to have a more balanced life this year, where I'm getting back to doing the things I love because I know that's important even to the business aspect. So it's all tied into it, and it all encourages me to keep this balance that I think I've been better able to find, and to keep finding interesting things out in nature. And same with the nature journaling, picking that up this year because I love nature. It ties in with the full illustrations that I do, that I make into illustrations, but also helps me continue to be curious and find that magic in that mundane when I go out and nature journal, and being able to share that like on my social media and have people see the pages where it's like a lens of how I see nature, to be able to see the different things that I saw that day and the questions I asked and the things that made me curious and what I was like paying special attention to, being able to share that and have people see those almost like behind the scenes moments of what sparks interest and the wonder that then comes out into my full illustrations. I think discovering nature journaling this year has been a really cool, important, mindful thing for me, but also to be able to show to other people as well.
And I look forward to, I know like we're going to cover a bit more of the nature journal in the showcase and maybe see some of it. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I've very much enjoyed the conversation here in nature with you, Lauren.
Hello and welcome to On Location. We are here in the river bottom. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Michael. And this is
Lauren Kurmey.
Thank you so much for your time and energy. I love it. And I have thoroughly enjoyed your conversations with Michael. And I'm super excited to dive into our showcase and just talk a little bit more specifically about some of the things you've done and worked on and the process behind them. And I think where I would like to start is just touching back on markets and the very like social side of your artistic practice and what that means and looks like. And is there anything that comes to mind when I bring that up?
I think probably just when I think back to when I first started markets, I was really quiet. I was really scared to even greet people and say hi to them at my table without, I didn't want to bug them. I didn't want to bother people, you know? I sometimes would have a table helper, whether that was like my fiance or my dad or whoever, that would kind of like nudge me and like say something, you know? The more that I opened up, the more I was able to connect with people across the table from me. I was having like full-on conversations and chats, and it was really like fulfilling for me to be able to connect like that with people that obviously liked nature. That's why they were standing in front of my table. That's why they had taken an interest to come over. And the fact that I was like too scared before to even want to say hi when it's so obvious that like from the minute they come over, they already have this sort of shared interest is silly now looking back at it. And it's just really neat and, like I said, fulfilling for me to be able to connect and relate and have these chats with people face to face like that at markets, because like I said, that's what art is about.
One of the images that you were able to share with us, maybe we'll do the blackbird first, just because I did actually recognize it based on some of the patterns on its wings. What can you tell us about that piece?
Yeah, so that drawing was the first one that I tried to draw and take my time on after all of my proper burnout recovery. It's the first one that I told myself to slow down and really take the time needed to experiment. It's a really big piece in terms of the style and the time and allowing myself with it. I think a lot of the time before I would try to just, in the small amounts of time between hand making that I would have, like in previous years, I would try to rush out art. And I didn't allow myself to take the time I need. I didn't allow myself to experiment. I didn't allow myself to fix things up that I think, or to try and see, would it be better if I did this? I wouldn't take the time to even try and find out if it would have been better. And I think I was thinking more of, what do people want rather than what do I want to represent me? What would I even want to hang on my own walls? And taking the time to figure all of that out during the drawing wasn't something that I had before. And so it sort of felt almost like every part of the drawing was getting in the way of me being done the drawing, which sucks. That's not what art's about. That's not ever where I want to be. But this was like my first drawing back where I shoved all of that aside and I took my time with it. Before, I was getting drawings out in days, the rushed ones, but this one was 3 weeks because I took the time, because I experimented. I didn't know, it was like a completely different style with like the kind of organic borders and like the branchy frame around. That was all new. That was all things I experimented with that I didn't know that I wanted to do until I tried 10 or 15 things before that and settled on where I liked it. But I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I hadn't been able to take the time. So like from a personal place, that piece is really important to having established this style that I've found myself really liking, this kind of sort of fantasy vibe that has these nice, cool details framed like kind of these Art Nouveau inspired framing things around it. And so it was a really important learning time went into that to make it where it is and to help me with the pieces that have come after that. And in terms of like the inspiration for the little blackbird, I think even that's important too, because if I was to tell you like I was inspired by this really amazing event where this blackbird had this big thing that happened, it's like it wasn't. I was on a walk, a red-winged blackbird flew in, and it was a small thing, but I think like my whole thing is realizing that small moments are big. And so being able to turn this little moment of I was just on a walk, a little blackbird flew in, I saw his little wings, And to be able to turn that small moment into this big magical moment, because that's what it all really is. And we need to notice that, and we need to slow down, and we need to appreciate that these small things are really amazing. That's where the drawing of the blackbird itself came from, was a small moment that I think is a big magical moment.
Yeah. I can't tell you how much the sentiments resonate, because I go for runs in the coulees a lot, and so I see them all the time. And one thing I love about nature and getting out into nature, and it sounds like kind of part of the inspiration for it was you were in nature at the time and then using that and reflecting on that. And it's one thing I get out of being in nature is just like not comparing yourself as much. Whereas when you're like in the hustle and bustle downtown, it's very easy to start comparing yourself to everybody. And I think for artists especially, comparing yourself and your style and what you're making, you know, and maybe that comes in at markets. This is a table next to you also selling like the similar medium of things, like also stickers or whatever else it might be. And so just that idea of comparison comes to mind. But in nature, that can fall away a bit. Does that resonate at all?
Hugely. Yeah, absolutely. Especially like on social media too, where you're surrounded, like it's impossible to not compare yourself, and it's impossible not to be in these places where you have to conduct your work. Like I have to be on social media. I have to be sharing my art on there and being at markets and seeing. You can't not be near the things that you compare yourself to. And it's so hard not to compare when you're in those places that make it so easy. So I 100% agree that when you come out, you put your phone away and you're not near anything else. You don't often even see other people, and your brain can just be somewhere. It's like an escape. It's somewhere else. You don't have to be looking at the things that can potentially be making you feel pretty bad. So totally agreed on that point. And even like with the nature journaling that I've started doing too, that's added another level of like mindfulness and focus on where I am, rather than the potential sometimes for, even when I'm in nature, for my brain to be like, oh, we're gonna get anxious, we're gonna start thinking about stuff now. The nature journaling is like really become a mindful, hone in, brain finally quiets down sort of thing. So yeah, totally agree. Nature is a magical quieting thing. Yeah,
It's a time and place where you can be captivated by a blackbird. And that's beautiful, right?
And I think we need to like open our minds to allow that to happen. It's really easy to just look at a thing and move on from it, but to look at a thing and to maybe linger on it a little longer, maybe ask a little question in your head, maybe just purposely appreciate that you saw that today. It doesn't have to be, when you describe it, a big thing, but you can appreciate it as a big thing.
Yeah. You've proven that by an event here today, like seeing different birds in the sky, and you just shot them out, or hearing them, which I think is really interesting. Is there that sense of engaging more of your senses maybe in nature too? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Did mention the diaries, but I do want to jump to the owl, just in case that also impacts things. What could you tell us about the owl piece that you were able to share?
So the owl actually links really well too to the question you asked earlier about the social connection part. I was in the middle actually of a different drawing when I shifted to the owl. The friend that I mentioned earlier that I had met a year or so ago, and we've started birding, she's been having some tough times lately. She's lost a family member. She's had some other panic family emergencies. And so I wanted to draw an animal that was special to her, special to the family member that she lost. And so I drew a great horned owl that was dedicated to my friend. And that again was another piece that I was able to take my time on, because I realized with the blackbird how much that impacted the quality of what came out. And so I was able to take that same time for her, for this drawing. And the fact that she was shocked when she got it. And I think thinking about it, I'm shocked at the idea that I made like this special friend just that started across the table. And now I'm like drawing special pieces of art for her. That's where that one came from, was that the great horned owl is special to that family member, and this friend is special to me. And that started across the market table. I have another customer who became a friend, a super nice old guy. He started buying my art years ago, and he would always come back the next market and tell me how much he's been enjoying whatever he got from me last time. Mom had died recently, and so I think all of these animals that she really liked seeing, especially the birds, reminded him of her, and it connected with him in that way. And he would always come back and tell me how much it meant to him that he could think of her through the things that he was getting from me. And he also actually recently passed away. He was really important in the community. I think a lot of young artists like me met him and had similar experiences. And so he was very well liked and he was really friendly. Kept coming back to tell me, you know, so that was really cool for me to see like the follow through on what it meant, and send me photos of where in his house he put it, or photos of the birds in his backyard. I don't always know how it affects someone or what it means to them. So, and I didn't know until he would tell me. So he really helped remind me of, you know, just whatever could be going on after that little market transaction that could be really meaningful that maybe I never know about.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, there's something in that about giving people an opportunity to open up. Like, whereas you in the beginning were like very hesitant to like say anything or whatever, but like your artwork and you showing the initiative to like start the conversation, or just actually allows people to open up and take the time to do that. And yeah, it also brings to mind the time, and I'm getting very much that sense of like taking the time on these pieces, and just the time that people have is limited. I don't know if that inspires any thoughts, but those are really moving stories. So I appreciate you sharing those.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you. And that's kind of what I've thought about when I was drawing the owl too, is because I really like animal symbolism. You know, I like the idea of, you know, different little positive messages that when you see an animal, you could think and be like, oh, that's nice. That animal represents like wisdom or something, you know? So owls are like wisdom, and some people think that they can see the future and that they bring warnings for things. And so the way that I always like interpreting things positively in that sense. Some people think owls like are omens for death or whatever. And I don't always love the idea of seeing an animal being like, oh no, it's an owl. So I like to reframe things and think maybe like that the idea of an owl could be that it's imparting wisdom to remind us to pay attention to all the moments that we have now, because we can't see the future. We don't know what's coming. And so it's really important to be in the now, to appreciate the time we have, to appreciate the little moments, and to make the little moments big moments. Yeah.
Amazing. I know we are almost at our time here, but I would be remiss if we didn't touch on like, at least some of the pages in your journal there. So the first pages that you shared with us have deer on them. What can you tell us about those pages and the story behind them?
Yeah, so that was over the summer, just some little fawns that I noticed out my window were zooming around, and I knew right away that I wanted to journal what was going on, because the first thing is like, what is going on? Why is it doing this? It's bounding, and it's got like dog zoomies, you know, and it's bounding and bucking and racing it like back and forth. And so I watched what it was doing, and I journaled and asked questions about like why it might be doing this. Is it play? Is it some type of fear? Is it reacting to something? And then I noticed a little magpie flew in, and they stared at each other. And as the magpie hopped, the little deer got like tense and would like bound around and kind of have a little zoomy again. And it found and as it was zooming, it stopped and saw a nearby dove, and it was like stalking up on the little dove. And when the dove flew away, because the dove got startled, the deer was like, whoa, and then it started zooming again. And it's just, I still don't know like the whole reasoning behind it, but being able to take that little moment out of my day to be able to document it, to be able to ask questions and spend the time, it also has really embedded it in my memory. So I can go back to that page and I can place myself looking out the window. I can see it. I can re-experience that. And I think being able to have that moment not only embedded in my memory, but also on a page for others to see, to remind myself of spending that time being important, to open my mind to be curious and ask questions and go beyond just that's a deer running around, but to investigate a little bit, you know, to spend that time. And that's, I think, part of what makes little moments become bigger moments, is the energy and the time and the curiosity and wonder that you can put into anything.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things in those pages is that they're kind of like, they are like freeze frames. Like there's like space in between the images, and like I'm really getting that story that you just shared. Yeah. Beautiful. I think we are at our time for this segment, so I'm sure we could talk for hours on end, but being mindful of your time. So yeah, this has been On Location in the River Bottom. I'm Daniel.
I'm Michael.
And this is...
And I'm Lauren Kurmey.
Thank you so much for watching.